Selena's voice was bright and casual as she set her fork down. "We're moving in Friday. Connor already promised me the Lakeview room." The air left the dining room as if someone had opened a window in the dead of winter. My fork hovered above my plate. Across from me, my son Connor stared into his water glass, swirling it slowly as if he could disappear into the vortex. "I'm sorry?" I asked, my voice dangerously steady. Selena smiled, a practiced placating thing, and reached into her oversized purse. "Just until our foundation work is finished. You know how bad the cracks have gotten." She fanned out a deck of pastel paint swatches across my table, the one I had sanded and stained myself when grief was my only companion. "We've already picked colors. Something soft for the kids and maybe a pale green for our room." "I wasn't aware of this arrangement," I said. "It's just sitting there empty," she replied with a shrug. "You hardly even go up anymore." Connor finally looked up, his eyes darting from me to Selena. "It's only for a few months, Mom. We're in a bind." "You've already given notice at your apartment, haven't you?" It was more statement than question. Selena's smile faltered, but only for a second. "Of course. We had to plan ahead. The kids are excited. They've already picked out their rooms." I set my napkin down, smoothing the linen flat against the wood. "You've made a lot of plans." "We're family," Connor offered, his tone rehearsed. I took a sip of coffee to keep from saying what I truly felt. Their voices blurred as the children began to bicker about which bedroom was whose. Selena reached for her wine glass. The picture of confidence, the matter clearly settled in her mind. But inside me, something had shifted. The initial shock had crystallized into a cold, hard clarity. I was no longer stunned. I was taking measure. "It's just for a while," Selena said, as if that were a magic incantation. 7 months, max. The contractor thinks he can finish even sooner if the weather holds. 7 months. In my home. Without asking. Connor leaned forward, elbows on the table as if we were negotiating terms. "It's not a big deal, Mom. You're always saying the place needs life in it." "I said life," I replied, my voice firmer now. "Not chaos, and I certainly didn't say I wanted my house repainted without so much as a phone call." Selena didn't flinch. She buttered a roll delicately and turned to the children. "Tell Grandma which rooms you picked." "I want the one with the balcony," their youngest said, his mouth half full. "No way, that's mine," the older one snapped. "I already called it." I looked directly at Connor. "They've already been to the Lakehouse." He hesitated. "We drove up last weekend. Just to show the kids around?" "You weren't there." I pushed my plate away. "So you visited my property, assigned bedrooms, and made renovation plans. All without telling me." "It's not like that," he said quickly. "We just needed a solution, and it made sense. You don't even use the house that much anymore?" "That is not the point." "It's temporary," Selena chimed in, "and we'll take care of everything. You won't even know we're there. You're repainting walls, assigning rooms, bringing furniture. I will know you're there." The table fell quiet, the only sounds the clinking of cutlery and the distant hum of the dishwasher. I looked around, trying to find something familiar in this conversation, an anchor that still belonged to me. But it all felt foreign, like I had slipped into someone else's script. No one had asked me. No one had even paused to consider I might say no. And now, I realized, saying no would cast me as the villain in a story I didn't write. I remembered the first time I drove up that gravel road. The lake house had been sitting empty for 3 years, windows clouded with dust, shingles curling like dried leaves. It cost me every cent of my savings and the payout from the condo I'd sold after the divorce. Everyone said I was crazy, everyone except me. Back then, the room smelled of mildew and disuse. The dock was half sunk, the railing warped. I spent every weekend and most evenings driving out after work, hauling tools from my trunk, learning how to sand floors and patch walls from videos on my phone. I poured $90,000 more into repairs. Roofing, plumbing, a full kitchen gut. The house was mine to fight for. Then came the flood. 2 summers ago, while Connor and Selena posted photos of cocktails and parasailing in Aruba, I was kneeling in dirty water, ripping up warped hardwood before the mold could set in. The insurance adjuster came once, shook his head, and left. No one stayed to help me carry out soaked furniture or scrub walls until my hands were raw and cracked. I patched, bleached, and painted every inch alone. That house was supposed to be my retreat, a place where I could finally sleep through the night without checking the locks twice, where silence felt like safety instead of loneliness. I planted flowers, rebuilt the dock, and learned how to breathe again on that porch. And now, sitting at my own table, listening to Selena divvy up the rooms, I could almost see the water rising again. This time, not from a storm, but from a slow, steady tide of entitlement. They thought that because I had built it quietly, it was open for the taking. I folded my hands in my lap, feeling the familiar ache in my knuckles from years of work. There was a time I would have sighed, let it go, told myself it was for family. But as their voices swirled around me, I thought of the folder tucked away in my desk drawer and what it might mean to finally use it. I didn't raise my voice. I simply stood, walked into my study, and returned with a thick manila folder. I placed it on the table, covering Selena's pastel swatches. "What's this?" Connor asked, his tone wary. I opened the flap and turned the pages to face them. "Permits, contracts, work orders." My finger tapped the first page. "Full renovation, 9 months. It starts Monday morning." Selena blinked. The smile she'd been wearing slipped. "You're renovating?" "I've been planning it for months," I said. "New windows, new wiring, new floors, every room, down to the studs. The contractors are already lined up and paid." Connor sat back, arms crossed. "You didn't say anything." "I didn't need to," I replied evenly. "It's my house. My decision." Selena leaned forward, scanning the papers as if a loophole might appear. "But our things, our plans. This can't happen now. We've already given notice." "That was your choice," I said. "This was mine." For a moment, no one spoke. The children stared, wide-eyed. Connor rubbed his forehead as if he'd stepped into a meeting unprepared. Selena's manicured nails clicked a rhythm of disbelief against the tabletop. "You're telling me," she said slowly, "that the house isn't livable?" "Not for anyone," I confirmed. "Construction crews start at 7 a.m. Monday. Every room will be gutted." Connor's practiced calm began to crack. "You blindsided us." "No," I said, closing the folder. "You blindsided me. I'm just following through." The table went silent. Selena reached for her glass, but her hand trembled, spilling a drop of wine on the linen. I rose from my chair, already thinking of what else I needed to prepare. "Mom," Connor's voice softened, the way it always did when he thought he could pull me back. "Think about the kids. They're counting on this." Selena jumped in. "We don't have anywhere else to go. You can't just let your own grandchildren be homeless." Her eyes glistened in that carefully rehearsed way. I folded my hands on the table. "You should have secured a place before giving notice." "That's not my responsibility." "You've always said family comes first," Connor pressed. "This is what that means." "No," I replied, my tone steady. "This is what entitlement looks like." The children had gone silent. Selena reached for the smallest one's hand. "You're breaking their hearts," she murmured, her eyes waiting for a crack in my resolve. My phone buzzed in my lap. A text from Miguel, my contractor, materials delivered. Cameras installed, locks changed. A current of calm ran through me. Everything was moving forward on schedule. "I'm not breaking anyone's heart," I said. "I'm holding my boundary." I rose from the table for the last time. They were so used to me bending, they didn't recognize the sound of me standing firm. The confrontation at the lake house itself was brief. I arrived to find a moving truck blocking my driveway, Selena directing traffic. I handed her an envelope with a contract for a paid storage unit. She refused it, jamming a key into the lock, the spare she shouldn't have had. A robotic voice announced, "Unauthorized entry attempt detected. Alerting property owner and security provider." "I had the locks changed last week," I said. "The house is under renovation. It's not safe or legal for anyone to move in." In a final petty act of defiance, they had the movers leave all their furniture on my lawn. I didn't argue. I made one phone call. Within the hour, a truck from a local auction house arrived, and every last piece was tagged, photographed, and hauled away. The proceeds donated to a foster youth housing program. The fallout was swift and furious. The calls, the threats, the attempt to involve Pastor Rick at a staged, peaceful dinner. I met them all with the same unflinching calm. I showed them the photos of me alone in the flooded house, the messages for help that went unanswered. I handed them heavy, embossed invitations to a housewarming. In 6 months, for guests only, RSVP required. That was 6 months ago. Now I stand on my new balcony, the reclaimed cypress warm under my palm. The lake is a mirror of the soft morning light. The house behind me glows, every inch a reflection of my own vision and peace. My phone buzzes. A message from Selena. "Can we talk?" I let the screen light fade for a moment, then type my reply. "Next time, ask." Don't assume Selena's voice.